we're going to give it a shot. And then I always will take general Q&A throughout. If you have questions, put them into the chat room, and we'll do our best to get to all the questions. And if we can't get to your question, we'll be sure to answer it in a recap afterwards on our blog. We're recording this live from our headquarters in Santa Monica, where it's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a special week here for the team because it's our all hands. So the entire team is in town this week. We've got folks who have flown in from the Philippines, from Lagos, from throughout the United States. So it's fun to have everyone here and to be able to do a reaction action. So the first and most important thing is t-shirts. If you want a t-shirt, please submit your information. There's a link that's being shared now, or it's up on the screen. Give us your address, your t-shirt size, and then we'll be sure to get that in the mail out to you. We've got long sleeve t-shirts now, as well as short sleeve shirts. So hot commodities. Be sure to give us your info, and we'll get those shipped out. We're always hiring. I mention this every time we do a reaction action, but if you're interested in joining the team, please visit our careers page. We've got jobs posted. Even if you don't see a job that interests you, you should still apply and reach out to me or to anyone on the team. We'd be happy to talk about what it's like to work here. We are a distributed first team. In fact, Spencer's based in Colorado. So even though we do have a headquarters here in Santa Monica, we're now at the point where more than half the team is distributed around the world. So we've got QA engineers, solutions engineers, product marketing roles, and more will be opened up soon. So if you're interested, definitely reach out, and we'd love to hear from you about that. I think you all know this. If you're on the reaction action today, you know how to get involved. But we've got an active chat room that's on Gitter. If you have any questions, need any support, sorry about the audio. And we have forums. You can put any questions in our forums. We do community calls, and there's the link for the agenda that happens twice a month. Our docs are constantly getting updated. We spend a bunch of time making sure that our docs are as useful as possible. If you find any inconsistencies in the docs or any issues with the docs, we appreciate pull requests, or just let us know via the chat room. Always welcome contributions. We'll talk a little bit about the roadmap and kind of what we've got next. And then if you're interested in working with us, if you're an agency or a dev shop, or you're working on behalf of clients or projects, we'd be interested in working with you and helping you to get those projects to go live. So definitely reach out via our partner page, and we'll get you some more information. Okay, that's it for me. Turn it over to Spencer. He's going to give a product roadmap update. We've been working a bunch over the last couple sprints on our GraphQL layer. And so we've got some release updates, and we'll talk a little bit about more what's going to be coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, so a general update just on our last couple releases, 1.10 and 1.11. Our 1.10 release had a number of big updates, the biggest of which was probably the removal of our collection hooks package. So we've been working to deprecate the way we do collection hooks in the app for a few releases, but 1.10 marks the removal of collection hooks. If your package or plugin depended on that, you can put it back in, but we also have plenty of patterns that are out there to follow in the releases leading up to and including 1.10. And then the other big work that we've been doing is on our GraphQL API. So 1.10 introduced a couple new routes into the Reaction app. So we have /GraphQL, which is our GraphQL endpoint. And we have /GraphiQL, graphical maybe, which is kind of a GraphQL user interface. So starting in 1.10, both of those were available. If you know about GraphQL, you kind of understand how to use those to learn more. And then in 1.11, we started adding a lot of functionality to that GraphQL endpoint. So to this point, we've added GraphQL queries for our product grid, I think in 1.12, we have some work coming out to add a single product fetcher so that you can start to populate the product detail page with GraphQL. We've done work for populating the profile page and the accounts, be able to update an address book, and a number of other, GraphQL specific API endpoints. The other piece that is being developed in tandem with this GraphQL release is we have a new repo that we're calling the Reaction Next Starter Kit. And it's essentially a standalone front-end application that connects to Reaction, replicates the functionality of our existing front-end Meteor application, but is done without using Meteor. It uses Next.js, Apollo to connect via GraphQL, and then React. And so we're under development in that, and we'll continue to update that as we update our GraphQL endpoints. So that's being developed in parallel with our GraphQL work.
Great. So definitely we'll get to questions after we do the live demo, which we're going to switch over to next. I see there's one question already, but definitely start asking questions, and we'll be sure to get to those after the demo. So now I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Firestone. Cindy's our Vice President of Client Operations, and she's going to give a live demo. It's about a 12 or 13-minute demo of the application. So take it away, Cindy.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second while I share my screen. All right, so today I'm going over the basics of setting up a shop and the experience for store operators. I'm using a shop that I've deployed on my local machine, and this is what Reaction looks like pretty much out of the box. All I've done is added in some products. So I'm logged in as an owner, which means that I've got some extra functionality here, including this access to the central dashboard, which I will go over in more detail in a bit. So we've made it easy for store operators to make updates to the site. You can use edit mode and switch it on and off to see what your shop looks like to customers who are browsing your site without switching between screens that you would typically do on other systems. Out of the box, Reaction is responsive and optimized for mobile devices. And in fact, you can deliver an app-like experience within the browser itself. So the first thing I'll go over is managing the catalog. So while Reaction is architected for extreme customizations, it's also easy for the non-technical store owner to be able to make quick updates to the shop. So with a few clicks, I can drag and drop to rearrange the order of my merchandise. I can also change the image size if I want to. So I'm going to make these two slightly bigger. I can duplicate a product as well by clicking this duplicate product button, and it should show up in just a second at the bottom. And of course, this is a live demo, so anything goes. So here's my duplicated product right here. So we have revision control and publishing workflows built in at both the catalog and product level. So this gives the admin the ability to review, stage, and revert changes to the product. When it's enabled, any changes will be saved as a draft with the original product remaining unchanged. In this case, everything with the dot means that I have a change that needs to be published. And when the change in the draft is published by hitting this publish button at the top, then the public view of the product will have my changes applied. So on Reaction, publishing is real time, kind of like Google Docs. So for more complex needs or for larger catalogs, we of course support real-time cataloging, inventory, synchronization to and from external systems. Now I am going to show you how to create a new product. So first you click the plus button at the very top to add a product. All right, and then let me get some product images here. So you can click to upload or drag and drop photos of your product in here. I'm going to drag and drop. Okay. So we offer easy inline editing for the product title. So Action shirt, subtitle, vendor, and description. You can also edit those in the product settings over here in the sidebar. And from the sidebar, you can adjust the template, the permalink, as well as the origin country. You can also add in social media sharing messages and product tags. So tags provide an easy way to categorize and search for product items by group. Reaction features two types of tags. Product tags help customers find what they're looking for, while navigation tags organize these keywords by category. So once I've created a tag, I'm going to go women's shirt. I can go ahead and add it into my navigation by clicking this edit button, and I'll add it under tees. You can see it generates automatically, and then there we go. Now I have a new tag added to my navigation. All right, so every product comes with one default required variant. Get rid of this real quick and get rid of this. Here we go. All right, so every product comes with one default required variant. And product variants allows you to create different versions of the same base product, such as size and color. So I'm going to go just gray here. So within the UI itself, there can be two levels of variants displayed, so a variant and then a variant option, but there are no limits on the variant levels within the code. And within each variant, you can edit the price, inventory, adjust the quantity, allow back order, as well as enter in size and weight for shipping calculations. So next, I'm going to jump into the dashboard. So the dashboard is a central control center where store operators can manage and configure their shop. So first I'm going to go into shop, the shop icon. And this is where you can enable and disable guest checkout, upload and manage brand logos, which will be displayed in the navigation bar by default, change a shop name, shop slug, shop email, add in the shop description, or add in keywords for SEO purposes. You can also set your default shipping and billing address, as well as integrate currency exchange API. So from here, this is how you turn your shop into a multi-tenant marketplace. So you toggle on marketplace, and then it will give you an option to invite additional vendors to be able to sell on your marketplace. The marketplace admin also has the ability to enable and disable shops under the marketplace shop settings. So anyone who's just invited will be marked as new, and a shop will need to be marked as active in order for its products to appear in the marketplace. As a marketplace owner, you can also manage each of your shop's products, orders, and users. Sellers who are invited to join the marketplace will receive an email invitation that needs to be accepted in order to get started. For the purposes of this demo, I'm actually going to turn off marketplace. All right, so some of the other integrations that some integrations and features out of the box include enabling shoppers to register and log into your store with third-party login services. I have just Google sign-in turned on here. You can add social media sharing buttons to the product page by adding in your store's social profile information. We're already internationalized and localized, supporting over 24 languages and 50 plus currency conversions. Within the localization and I18N settings, you can choose your default time zone, base currency, base unit of measure, base language, as well as toggle on the additional languages that you want to, and additional currencies. We're the only platform with native support for the more technically challenging languages like Chinese, Hebrew, Russian, and Arabic. For payment methods, right here, connect to what we have here, which we'll show in a second. I'm using just the example provider for this demo, but you can connect to what we have or build your own custom payment method. We also have discount codes for coupons and promotions built in. On the taxes side, we've partnered up with TaxCloud and Avalara, two of the top tax management services, to bring custom tax and sales tax calculation to all shop owners. You can also set your own custom tax rate. For shipping, We offer 3 flat rate default shipping methods or an integration with Shippo. And search is, of course, an important part of any e-commerce solution. So we've included a simple search ready to go for you out of the box. So you can see that here. And you can configure your search tool by going to the search icon and customize how you want your search products to be displayed. With notifications, Reaction comes preloaded with email templates that are sent out with various user actions. These templates are available to be fully customized. We also support Twilio and Nextmo to send out SMS notifications for handy reminders. And lastly, we offer in-app alerts. So I am now going to pull up an incognito window and show you what checkout looks like on Reaction by default. Here. Okay, so you can see I'm not logged in here. I don't have the admin panel. And I'm gonna add this to cart and check out now. All right, so in the default checkout process, there are 5 steps on a single page. First is create an account, continue as guest, or register. So I'm gonna just continue as guest. 2 is entering my shipping and billing information. 3 is choosing my shipping method. I'm just gonna choose free. 4 is reviewing my order, and 5 is entering my payment information. So this workflow can be totally customized, so you can add or remove steps that fit your business requirements. So now that we have this order, I will show you order processing on Reaction. So go into the dashboard and go into orders. And you can click on the blue start button to get started. Order processing is a tablet optimized workflow experience where you can quickly approve the order, capture the payment, apply a refund or cancel the order if you need to, print the invoice, and then enter in shipping and tracking information. And then send out a shipping notification to your customer. So like everything else on Reaction, this orders workflow is also completely customizable, so you can add or remove steps. And each one of these events can trigger an SMS or email notification that we just discussed earlier. And of course, you can also sync this to a third-party order processing and shipping system. So the last thing I'm going to cover in the demo today is accounts. So accounts is a place where you manage your user groups and associated permissions. So here you can add users to groups, thus giving them permissions to perform specific actions. Everyone, including guests, can have an account assigned to them with different permission sets. There are 2 default admin groups that come with Reaction. The owner group, which has all of the permissions available in the app, and that's what I'm logged in as right now. And the second user group by default is the store manager group, which can act on behalf of the owner in most cases, but there can only be 1 owner per store. Store owners and users with the permissions to this account here will have ability to edit, to create new groups under the edit group section, add users, new users or existing users to groups, as well as add or remove permissions for these groups. So that wraps up the demo portion of the Reaction action. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and join Sarah and Spencer on the couch for some Q&A.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Cindy's going to join us over here on the couch. There's been some good questions that have come in during the demo, so we'll jump in and start answering some of the questions. Again, if you've got any questions, put them into the chat or the Q&A. So the first one from Danilo about Next.js. You did hear that correctly. We are working on a prototype storefront. And so Spencer will talk a little bit about the prototype and what we're using and how that's interacting with the GraphQL layer.
Yeah, so yeah, the Next.js piece I think is pretty exciting. You did hear that right. That's what we're building, the front end of this new storefront, as we're calling it, storefront React app. So we're starting to use these terms storefront to identify the customer facing side of your shop. And then we'll talk about the operator experience going forward in reference to how you would manage a store, manage orders, products, those types of things. So yeah, the storefront, Next.js, reference storefront is our first foray into that. And it's what we're going to be terming a kind of a reference storefront. So there'll be, best practices of how to use our GraphQL API to build a customer-facing storefront app.
And is there any place where they can see that right now, or?
Yeah, and so that's available. If you look at our GitHub repos, if you just go to the /reaction commerce, I think root URL, it would be in the list of our public repos. We have, the reaction repo, but we also have probably another 15, 20 other repos that are all out there and contain open source code, and that's one of them. I think it's reaction-next-starter kit, but don't quote me on that. You're better off looking it up yourself. And if somebody finds it, drop it in the chat. Help out your friends.
That's on video forever. Well, great. Another question that came in for the Q&A, someone asked that the last time they had looked at Reaction, it seemed like it was lacking some features specific to grouping and item kits. Is there any update or plan for this? We were actually just talking about this yesterday in our all hands. So Spencer, why don't you chat a little bit about our thoughts on this?
Yeah, so in terms of grouping or bundling products, we don't have any particular plans to add that to the core product, but it is pretty simple, I think, to build a product bundling plugin. I say that because I've done it before. So before I started working with Reaction, I built a Reaction shop that rented outdoor gear, and we built a product bundler. I think that's probably still out there, although it was built for Reaction 0.12, I think. It was well before 1. So I wouldn't take that and try to use it as is, but it could be a way to build, or it could be a place to start. And that was in the Get Outfitted GitHub repo. All that to say, I do think the way we've developed our product system and just kind of the whole plugin ecosystem enables you to quickly build something like a product bundler without too much hassle.
Yeah. So with the GraphQL layer that we're talking about and kind of the separation of the storefront and the operator experience, will folks be able to use Reaction Commerce as the headless commerce platform and build their own front end?
Yes. And that is the whole point. Yeah. So that is the dream, is that our GraphQL API the GraphQL API is more or less why we're building this reference storefront. It'll serve as a great example, I think, and I'm sure there'll be some people who use it more or less as is. But the goal is that you can build your own storefront, and you wouldn't have to use Next.js. You could use, Gatsby maybe, or just Webpack and all your favorite front-end libraries. So we've built the GraphQL API to be Relay compatible. You don't have to use Apollo, but that is the goal, is that anyone can build their own, storefront using the technology that they prefer.
Great. Some good questions coming in. So just a couple folks put in the URL, Spencer. So it's github.com/reaction-next/starter-kit.
Dash starter. Okay.
Starter-kit. Sorry.
Great.
So it's in the chat room. Okay. Any migration tools for popular e-commerce platforms like Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce? We actually worked on a client project that included a Shopify connector. So that was something that we worked on.
I think the Shopify connector is still in the core app. So that's something that you could look at. It may not import all of the data you want. I think we were importing products. I think a community member added an ability to import customers. But if you wanted to import orders, the goal for that Shopify connector, as we called it, was as an example or a reference integration for pulling in data from other platforms. So that's, I guess you could say, kind of how we've seen. I'm sure there's ways to build other Magento or other ERP connectors based off of that.
I think the community is working on some Magento connectors. So that's
Magento 1 and Magento 2.
Yeah.
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 And I've seen a Reaction CSV importer as well out there in the community.
Yeah. So there's a few out there, and I think more will be added by the community as we go along. Question back to the new storefront prototype, and it's kind of asking, is the new storefront targeting to cover 100% of the current functionality, or is it more just like a demo that will only cover a smaller subset of the Reaction functionality available with the current front end? So what's our thinking about coverage with the GraphQL API and kind of the new storefront capabilities?
It's a great question. I would say the goal is not 100% coverage of existing functionality. The goal is to take the lessons that we learned while building the last front end and do a better job. So I think that feature-wise, we probably should see most or all of the features that are being used on a regular basis. We're not going to be implementing the operator tools that are overlaid on the storefront right now. So if you look at the way product grid and dynamic merchandising works, that's not going to be built into the reference Next.js storefront. We see those as operator tools, and so we want to work on those on the operator side. But in terms of customer-facing features, I think you'll see feature parity or new features even being added, just based on lessons we've learned, based on feedback we've gotten.
Yeah.
So that's my answer for that, I guess.
Yeah. So a question somewhat related to performance and some of the changes we're making with the GraphQL layer. Will that help to solve some of the performance issues we see with the long loading time, the first paint for the consumer experience?
Yeah, we believe that it will. I don't think it's quite to the point where we can test it, apples to apples yet. But current testing, we are loading product grids served from the existing Meteor app through the GraphQL API to the new storefront, and those are much faster. Again, I don't know if it's one-to-one yet, but we're getting close, and I think it will dramatically reduce the load time for first paint for customers. That's definitely something that we are very focused on. It's one of the reasons that led to us starting to work on this. We are doing SSR, so React and Next.js allow us to build SSR into our front end a little more easily. And so we've been taking that opportunity to do server-side rendering kind of from the get-go. That's part of every new feature we release for this starter kit. And that also improves SEO, but I think also that initial page load.
Yeah, makes sense. Here's a question back to Marketplace and maybe a little bit about the demo. Does Reaction Commerce allow the site admin to see the listing of all the users registered for the site? So maybe it's not just Marketplace, but it's overall. You get to see all the accounts, kind of all the, yes.
Good question. I don't know if we actually have a UI for viewing every single user on the site right now. We do have an account management section where you can manage administrators, you can manage shop owners, those types of things. But in terms of managing individual user accounts, there's not really much there. I don't know what you would use that for. So if you have more follow-up on that question, feel free to ask.
Maybe.
But also that should be a trivial plugin if you want to create that and contribute that back to the community. If you understand kind of what types of features you would need there, we'd welcome a plugin.
Right. So back to the GraphQL layer. Lots of interest in this. Lots of excitement, I think. Can folks experiment with the Reaction Commerce GraphQL layer now and maybe even try Gatsby or other things? Like, is it available, and kind of how can folks interact with the work that we're doing right now?
Great question. Yeah, it is available. It is in our master branch. So if you're pulling or initializing reaction as of 1.10, GraphQL is available. So if you're running your reaction locally, you can go to /GraphQL, which is the GraphQL endpoint, and /GraphIQL, graphical. I don't really know exactly how they expect people to pronounce that. But that's an interactive way to play with the GraphQL endpoints. You can access docs. You can look at, I think, the GraphQL resources, and that'll show you how to interact with a GraphQL API using that tool. But it is available if you pull the 1.12 release branch, which is where all of our work over the last week and a half has gone. There's additional functionality, bug fixes. This is something that we're actively developing in core alongside of our existing Meteor implementation.
Great. Is reaction commerce suitable to be internationalized? So besides being able to have multi-language, multi-currency shop, what about different payment gateways for different countries? So absolutely. And we do have a lot of shops out there that are live in other countries who have added in different payment gateways, Bolivian payment gateways. So there's lots of activity. You can add your own payment solution, your payment package. There's documentation in the docs to do that. But it's definitely built for you to be able to take out packages and replace and modify packages that are specific to internationalization or any other needs that you might have in terms of your workflow. So anything to add on that?
I think out of the box, I'm not sure if we support having multiple payment gateways enabled depending on the locale, but that would also be a fairly trivial update. You just need to update the registry for your plugins to have some type of locale indicator, and then load the correct payment gateway to the client based on their country or whatever filter you needed to use.
Yep. There's a question in the Q&A about what hosting solution we recommend for a reaction website. This kind of depends. It depends a little bit on your volume, kind of how many, what your catalog size, what your traffic is, what your overall volume. So it's a tough one for us to answer just with a blanket. We do have docs out there to help you and to kind of guide you to some of the other third-party hosting solutions. If you're doing significant volume in terms of sessions or traffic or catalog size, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to kind of help guide you and give you some more information. But definitely look in our docs. We talk about, and I know there's other docs out there about deploying to Heroku or other solutions. It really kind of depends on what your needs are.
Yeah, I think the one biggest improvement that can be made is to separate the Mongo database from the app server and use a hosted Mongo. There's several companies out there that offer that as a service, and that I've seen that greatly improve the speed of the server and the capacity to handle requests.
Yeah. Here's a question we don't get too often, and I kind of wish Tyson was over here, but there was a little pressure. But do you have any plans for AI, so artificial intelligence or machine learning integration, into the future roadmap? And the short answer is yes, but it's we're still in early kind of research, conversation, exploratory phase. Our intention's always been to provide a dynamic merchandising, dynamic pricing, promotions, and personalization on top of reaction commerce. And we'll do that by integrating or actually building kind of these types of tools onto the core. It's pretty far out, so we're not committing to any timelines or when it will be on the roadmap, but it's since starting the company 4.5 years ago, it's been exactly part of the vision for us to have data at the core and to really be a data-first platform that powers commerce. So it's stuff we're working on now. We've got some really early prototypes in progress. And as we get more definition, we'll start to talk about it. We'll start to share plans and roadmaps. And just like we've been doing all along, you'll start to see us iteratively release some of these updates. Did I overcommit?
Yeah, someday.
Someday, definitely in our future. Okay, Lone is asking a question about Next.js. So will the Next.js based front end be released as part of version 2.0? If not, when should we expect it to replace the current Meteor served client?
Yeah, so I would say 2.0 is my target for releasing the Next.js front end. In terms of deprecating the Meteor-based storefront, Meteor-based client, I don't think those things necessarily need to be intertwined. I think we can release the Next.js-based front end in parallel. Keep the Meteor client as needed. And then deprecate once we're comfortable that the Next.js front end, supports all of the features that it needs to, because they can run in parallel. You could easily run both of them if you needed to, if there's any reason to.
Makes sense. There was a question earlier that I think I missed. I'm going back into the chat around if we have any plans for a PWA, Progressive Web App implementation. So the person understands that obviously they can work on it, it's open source, but wondering if we, the core team, have any plans to have some of this built out of the box.
It's not on our roadmap immediately. I do see a lot of value in it. I think, especially as we start to focus more on some of the operator tooling, I think having a progressive web app for some of the operator tooling could be incredibly valuable. So short answer is no, we're not working on it now, and it's not on our immediate horizon, but I do see value in it, and I imagine we will work on it at some point.
Right. That's also one where if you're open to it, share more information with us, open up a GitHub issue or put something in the forums and explain kind of what you're looking for with as much detail as possible, because that helps us to think about it more and actually document it, and other people can add some of their thoughts about what they would like to see. There's the operator experience, there's the consumer experience, right. So there's a couple different sides to it. Okay, let's go back to the question. We might need a little bit of clarification on this question. This was from Gershon, who had asked about Marketplace, but it seemed like we got that answered via the demo. But then you were asking about integrating your software and how that would work with sellers' products on the platform. So in this case, it's probably a marketplace of sellers. So let us know in terms of what type of integrations you're looking to do. Is that ERP? Is that inventory? Is it catalogs? What type of software? But in general, we've tried to make it extremely extendable so that you can integrate third-party solutions or third-party integrations. Just give us more information either here or in Gitter, and we'll try to get you the answers that you need.
Yeah, and there's nothing specific about having a marketplace setup that would make it more difficult to build integrations. There's additional work that needs to be done to make sure that data flowing in or data flowing out is going to the right shop or to the right version of the integration. But I think the Shopify connector, for example, is able to import data for different shops using different API keys from multiple Shopify shops. So you could have each of your merchants connect to a different Shopify shop and pull products in from there and do syncing of some sort directly with their own Shopify shop.
So Lone's a follow-up question about the Next.js client. Will that include Reaction's component override API? So specific question about the Next.js client.
That's a great question. I don't know if I have a strong answer. If there's a reason that you would love to see that included, I'd love to see an issue created in maybe that Next.js starter kit. I think the answer right now is we're not planning to. I think the goal would be that you fork the storefront app and then create your own. We do see it as a reference app. And so our goal is to release it, and then, you can remix it or, create your own, kind of using that as an example. So I think the goal is that you don't necessarily have to override templates or override components in the same way. But if there's a compelling reason that I'm not thinking about, would love to hear a thoughtful response on that.
Great. There was a follow-up from Gershon about that, the integration. So it's a price negotiation in real time and automated for sellers. So that's very specific,
It is.
which is helpful. Obviously we probably want to know more details about that system and kind of what that looks like, but certainly possible in terms of how we're architected.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't see anything particular about being in a marketplace setting that would make that significantly more challenging. There are, obviously additional concerns to think about, making sure that data and API keys, those types of things are connected to the right sellers and allowing the sellers to connect to the right SaaS app or the right, user token of a particular SaaS app. But that's something I think, maybe the Shopify connector is a good example of how to do that, and maybe not.
Yeah.
But I think it's possible.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions, just again, back to the storefront prototype. Can folks experiment with the Reaction Commerce GraphQL layer now and let's say Gatsby? And the answer is yes. You'd have to implement Gatsby front end yourself and then consume the GraphQL API that we're starting to release, as we talked about in the 1.10, 1.11, and in the current release that's in progress, the 1.12. So
right.
That's all available to be
right.
consumed now.
Right. Yeah, and we've not done any detailed experiments with Gatsby, but I do think it's possible to build a front end in Gatsby. And I'm sure, just about any front end technology I think could be used to connect. As long as you're connecting to our GraphQL API, you should be able to create a storefront.
And if you're gonna start working on that stuff, do share. We'd love to see kind of what you're working on with Gatsby or Next or whichever frameworks or tools you're using. So definitely reach out to us, and we'd love to provide feedback, and just see the things that you're building. Okay, this will be the last question. It's a specific question. What would be your advice for customizing Reaction for selling of virtual goods? So not physical goods, in terms of like maybe more broadly talk about customizing product types and a little bit about how that might work.
Yeah, so I see some detail in there about asking about the Reaction file collections repo. So the Reaction file collections is, I guess, an extension or an updated fork of how we were handling files using Meteor, and essentially just how we resolve file uploads, downloads, making binary file data available to the client. So you could use that to upload files, zip files or images or of some kind. You may have to do some work to make sure that we're not filtering that out. We may be filtering out for, only images right now using that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything in particular. You could take the Reaction product variant and either clone that package and create your own package, or update the product schema in some way through a plugin. I think the other piece that would probably need to be updated is you'd need to create a workflow for doing fulfillment of digital goods, because you'd need to remove probably the shipping step. Potentially, you'd want to update the checkout step that involves collecting the user's shipping address.
Update the email templates.
Right. So there are a number of things I think to consider if you wanted to be selling digital goods to make sure that the workflows fit your specific use case. But in terms of just creating a product that doesn't have a weight and doesn't doesn't need to be shipped. I think all the tools are there.
Great. So I know we didn't get to answer all the questions. Again, like I said at the beginning, anything that we didn't get to answer, we'll do our best to answer in a recap after on our blog. So appreciate everyone participating. Great questions. And we'll see you for the next reaction action in a couple months. Great.